What's up, y'all? It's Mario and Amy. A to Z, nothing's off limits.
Because we are going to create a platform where we invite open and honest conversation on a variety of topics. Topics that me and you have assembled, but also topics that our listeners have insight or they want to share as well. And we hope to grow this to where maybe one day we can take live questions, we can tap our listeners in and really give them no script.
You have dreams, honey. You have dreams.
This is what you wanted. I'm ready. I stay ready.
You always ready.
I'll stay ready. This is what I live for. I stay ready. You know I can talk to a brick wall.
You could, and it would talk back to you too.
It would, so yeah.
But the first limit that I think we should unpack for those who are tuning in is our 50-50 split. Which is my fault. It's my fault, and I don't know. It works for us, but I think along our relationship, we've realized that there aren't many people in our age bracket, and maybe even younger or older, that do a 50-50 split. Or maybe they like to, but they just don't know how to enter into it. So, do you want to tell our listeners what the 50-50 split is for us?
There's layers to that conversation, and we may run out of time. This may be something that spills over into a part 2, but the 50-50 split is something that is mutual beneficial. It's something that helps to protect the household, but lessens the burden on husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend. So, historical context, if you don't mind. I've always taken the responsibility of anyone I've dated to being the provider. That's always been something that I prided myself in. However, it's one of those things, fool me once, shame on them, fool me twice, shame on me. You know, one of those kind of sayings. So when you get burnt by that, you start reevaluating things. So for me, I got burnt by it at one good time, and I said, wait a second, able mind, able body. Why should we not contribute to the future overall well-being of our relationship and our assets and all of the things above? So with that, getting with you, it was an introduction of the 50-50 split, which pretty much involves, to the best of your ability, you will split 50-50 expenses, and that nothing's off limits, A to Z. But nothing's off limits. That's rent, that's lights, that's groceries, that's everything that is a joint expense. We will share. However, the conditions that precede that is, there's no judgment if someone doesn't have the 50-50. There's no judgment if someone is unable to do the 50-50 for a season or a period of time. Instead, the 50-50 is really showing that there is skin in the game on both sides, but we also are seeing where the money goes. It's no different than having a joint account and saying you both contribute to a joint account and will deduct it as needed for our expenses. I wanted to make sure when I got married, or even when I was dating my fantastic wife, was that we established a foundation where we both understood and appreciated the expenses that exist in the real world. And we know those expenses have only increased in our current situation. But it was something that invited her to contribute and not feel like, oh, my man, what he do. But then also it allowed me not to have any resentment towards her being able to just take her funds and do whatever she want to do. But the bonus to all of that is we take care of priorities. And then everything else is at your leisure.
So, I'll also add some context to how we got to 50-50 split, because you heard my man talk about how he was basically being an unofficial sugar daddy.
And Daddy sugar.
Splenda.
You call me Splenda Daddy.
We called him Splenda Daddy.
You and Maya. Both of y'all said
at the beginning.
Splenda Daddy.
We did call him Splenda Daddy.
First time I ever heard that terminology, Splenda. Because I'm going to be honest with you viewers. It wasn't sugar. It was Splenda. I kept the lights on, water running, but it wasn't Rolls Royce and Bentleys. Shout out to Drewski. Go ahead.
Yeah, so he was Splenda Daddy and everything, and he definitely courted me and everything. He had his own place. I had my own place. We were both paying our own separate bills. But even before we got to kind of the engagement, I remember opening my mouth one time, and I don't remember where we were, but I pretty much put my foot in my mouth, and I shared with him that like it just doesn't set well with me if I relied 100% on a man.
Let's go.
I just didn't. Like, I have seen where, and I'm not saying that anybody who does this, there's anything wrong with it. Like, your life, your household, your rules.
Period.
But for me, taking that step with somebody, like, I don't know, there's just a little, even if trust is the best thing out there, there's just something a little unsettling about all of your financial needs being on one person. And then also, I think it's unfair if I'm eating up the food and using up the water.
Girl, you eat.
Whatever.
We'll talk about it.
And taking my showers and
a long one at that.
And doing everything else I need to do in our household. Why is it my significant other's responsibility to 100% be responsible for that? If I can live on my own and rack up all of my bills and I pay for it, then why is it when I get with someone and we become one, it is now one person's responsibility? And, you know, unbeknownst to me, I didn't know that he had already kind of made up in his mind from being burned before that he too wanted someone who wanted to equally contribute. But it was not a question for us when we got together and when we decided that we wanted to take this all the way, that like I was going to give my 50%, he was going to give his 50%. Like that, there was never an issue. We were on the same page. And another thing is with that 50-50, we do not hold each other responsible for any of the expenses that we have brought into this relationship. So
talk your talk.
Cars that we've bought, you know.
Yeah.
You know, Tesla, motorcycles, you know.
Don't do too much. Okay. Not too much.
All the things that we've acquired on our own, like, is not the other person's responsibility. And even, like, we gift each other stuff. Like, we take each other out on dates. Like, we're not saying, like, every nickel and dime is split 50-50. When it comes to, like, our well-being and our livelihood, like, we both have to contribute to that.
Wow. You see why she's the pro? You see why she's the starter of that? What I can add to that is the fact that Amy had her own well before I came in the picture. So I'm not here to give you this Macho Man story or this Whitney Houston, and I, this whole bodyguard response of me coming in and saving the day. I'm not a Clark Kent. She's not a Lois Lane. But what I will share is that she was and is and still is a Rihanna/Beyonce. Amy can continue in her safest overall well-being whether or not I'm in a picture. Of course, she'll miss her Huggy Bear. Mm-hmm. Oh, but overall, when we talk about objectively and we talk about from a financial perspective, she will be just fine. I will be just fine. What we decided to do was to co-joint our efforts to see where it will get us. But to what my lovely wife said earlier, we don't hold anybody accountable to what they can't do. We don't ask any questions on why they can't do it. However, she can't do it, but she out at Target buying a new air fryer, a new microwave. Is microwaves even do you even buy those nowadays? Yeah, I think that was installed.
I don't think every home comes with a microwave.
Okay. For my wife, espresso machine, because she's a big coffee drinker. We evaluate those expenses, and it's one of those things where I will never forget. She may remember or may not, but I remember when it came out fully, transparently, and openly. We was at my daughter's softball game. Her bonus daughter's softball game. And I believe I went to the concession stand to buy something, and her sister, Maya, don't disclose the last name, but Maya had mentioned, Amy, why don't you go get your man something to eat? And then she said, sure, I'm fine. Macho stuff. Like, I'm used to paying 50-50. Oh, that's my one time. Mm-hmm. I literally fell back in my seat and was like, wow, because that was something that I was not used to. I attached, like many men, the value of a man based on your ability to provide. However, in dating this woman to my left, your right, is that value is not purely based on what you can provide tangibly, there's also some intangible benefits as well. However, how do you navigate that conversation?
Yeah, I was going to ask you the same thing because it was a no-brainer for us. We understood it. But there are scenarios where, and I'm not going to assign gender to it because it doesn't matter. I mean, mindset is mindset at the end of the day. Doesn't matter if who you are, what religion, race, whatever. There are individuals.
We don't care about none of that.
None of it. There are individuals who are like, no, you want me, all my expenses must be paid, non-negotiable. Then we have others where they're like, all's on me. Like, I don't want you to lift a finger, nothing. And then we have a combination of the two. We have polar opposite scenarios. But what we do know is these bills have to be paid. There's only so many hours you can work in a week, and taxes are going to be taken out. That's what we know.
I didn't even think about taxes.
What? Taxes will be taken out.
Uncle Sam's want his part.
Absolutely.
Period. Poo.
Like, life is only getting more expensive, and unfortunately, there are no money trees that we're all able to plant and just hoard to ourselves. And so, how do you navigate a scenario where there is someone in a relationship that does want their significant other to start financially contributing? And let me put a caveat on it.
Please do. Caveat, baby. Cavalier.
Cavalier.
Fish egg.
Okay.
Caviar.
Okay.
Or the cavalier.
Okay.
It's caviar, right?
It's caviar.
Okay.
But how do you navigate it when you started down this path that either we're not going to talk about how we maintain our household financially, or you had an agreement and that agreement ain't agreeing anymore?
Ooh, that's a whole... Wait, I don't mean to cut you off because you know me. I like to give credit and respect where respect is due. And I'm going to bring the mic in. What if a previously agreed upon agreement is no longer applicable? What do you do? I'm going to stop. Go ahead.
I'm a rip the bandit off type of person. I don't like to sugarcoat, but I realize
don't you sugar nothing.
I ain't got no sugar or Splenda to throw on.
You got some sugar.
Situation. 3 times.
Okay, we'll cut it down to next episode.
So I'm more of a rip the bandit off type of person. You know,
that Band-Aid, no Neosporin.
No, I just feel like if you know how I am, I don't like to leave things unsettled. So I have to.
Very true.
I have to address everything. I can't vacillate on it too long, but I understand.
Vacillate. Okay, yeah. you better show that UT education.
Look,
I married a smart one. Period. Poo.
But I understand that people get very sensitive. I think sometimes the fear of hurting someone's feelings or feeling less than, like, oh, now you're flipping the script, like, so are you not who you said you were, and all of that stops people from being honest, and they just suffer in silence.
That is a great point. So I'm gonna bring the mic in. Men, if you're hearing me, and I'm only 37, you know, I know a lot of our listeners are gonna say there's so much more life to live. But men, if you're hearing me and you're listening to this podcast, don't suffer in silence. If you are struggling, or women, if you are struggling, please don't fall into that Swiss cheese model, because I'm a operations guy. Don't fall in that Swiss cheese model where I gotta be the macho man, I gotta be the Hercules, I gotta be the... You don't know about the Swiss cheese model?
No.
So being in operations, legally, etc., there's a Swiss cheese model. And Swiss cheese, if you pay attention to it, if you ever had Swiss cheese, there's certain holes, but they're not all uniform. Mm-hmm. There's a hole to the left, maybe one to the right, maybe one to the middle. So we talk about the Swiss cheese model. It's don't fall into one of those unforeseen or unknown holes, because if I go to the deli and order Swiss cheese freshly cut, all the holes won't be in the right place. The cheese won't mount up. That's a bar. Let me stop there. So I'm going to get back to the topic at hand. But what I want to be clear and what I want to emphasize to my male listeners and female listeners is vulnerability is okay. It's not something you should shy away from. It's not something that you should be like, oh, I'm lesser of a woman or I'm lesser of a man. Let me be frank with you. I brought the 50-50 agreement to my wife's attention. She didn't bring it to mine. She shared what she's done historically, and I had a decision to make. I could have easily said, keep doing what you've been doing, 50-50. I also could have said, no, girl, I'm your Clark Kent, your Lois Lane. I take care of anything. I took the route of my wife being able-minded, able-bodied, brilliant. I'm talking master's degree educated. I love her because she got her. Oh, I'm going to leave that alone, my falsetto. But it's one of those things where I feel like we really got to have the conversations that most don't want to have. And then when you have the conversation, as we transition, be okay with not having a mutual understanding out the gate. Because there's gonna be some sores that are gonna be open. With my wife's case, well, you did it for her, why didn't you do it for me? Well, I've never done that. You have certain pre-context related to, well, my parents do it a certain way, so why can't we be it that way? But it's one of those things where your parents, I didn't marry. My parents, you didn't marry, right? Circumstances have changed, expenses have changed. But if the Supreme Being has gave us able mind and able body, who would be selfish enough to say, why not contribute to that household? With the underlying effect that I got your back. And in marriage, I'll be honest with you. In my opinion, it's about having your back. How do you feel that? Is there viability in being reserved when it comes to having conversations with your wife as it relates to, I can't afford this, we're in a bad spot, I need you to do more? What does that look like? Guys, I'm gonna grab a drink. This could get messy.
So we had a scenario where I really wanted us to move, and I was unhappy where we were. I remember that. Yeah, I was unhappy where we were. Nothing was really.
That was a bit rude. We're gonna work that out. Go ahead. We're new to it. But we're not gonna edit it because we want to give you raw footage. My wife gave me this canter. It's my first time using it. I'm sorry. Go ahead, honey.
Anywho, so anyway, back to what I was trying to explain. We were agreeing that we were gonna move, and I knew with us moving, it was going to come with an additional cost. And I personally was on my own journey in terms of like things that I had as financial goals. But I knew that this place that we wanted to move to was going to be kind of out of my comfortability level to increase my half of things. And so when my husband and I kind of had that conversation, I still wanted to move. I did not want us to stay where we were staying. Our agreement was that he would take on more of my 50% share to make our home work.
Can I just stop you there? And with that, I want to be clear. There was no judgment. There was no inferior and superiority complex. It was, I'm here for you, and I'm going to do whatever is needed for our household to thrive. I'm sorry to interrupt.
So it was also with the understanding that this was temporary. And with temporary, we did not have a time frame on it. And I have to commend Mario for trusting me that it was going to be temporary, because we did not have a contract that said, all right, we're going to move to this place. Mario's going to take on 60-70%. Amy's going to pay 30%. And then on X date, they're back to 50-50. Like, he just had to trust that I meant it, and I wasn't, using this as a way to, hide money to go buy my purses and my makeup and all that good stuff. But he didn't harp on me. Now, internally, I'm over here like, oh my God, like, I've got to like figure out how to get us a 50-50. Like, I know what I said. I'm a woman of my word. The phrase is man of my word.
I'll take a sip. I'm a man.
I'm a woman of my word. And so with that, like, I don't ever want him walking around like, well, dang, like, she said she was going to get us 50-50. And he also has his desires and his wants, and he works a lot. And it's unfair if he's just sitting here flying blind, not wondering when he can recoup my portion of the 50-50 back in his pocket. And so not that he ever asked me, but I took responsibility for our agreement. And so I'd be like, hey, babe, like, I'm working on it. Okay, by this amount, like, by this date, I feel like I'm going to be close. And then finally, I was like, babe, like, I know it. By this point, we're going to be 50-50. And he could have said no. He never asked me about it. He never followed up. He never said, Amy, when are we going to get 50-50? And then
we're going to stop right there. That is A to Z.
Dang.
Nothing's off limits.
Okay.
Episode 1.
Okay.
I don't want us to rob our listeners of any of the details that you're sharing.
Okay.
I don't want to rush those details. I don't want to rush my response. So with that being said, we hope that we gave you enough to where you will want to tune in again and hear the conclusion of this story. I'm Mario.
I'm Amy.
And this is A to Z. Nothing's off limits. Episode 1 in the books. Let's go.
Stay tuned.